Part 19. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 181. Lu Yuwang heard the text message on the cell phone of the uncle next door, so of course he didn't read it carefully. He just accidentally caught sight of him reading an online novel. How could he continue to look at other people's cell phone screens? Lu Yuwang is a very cultured and polite professional woman. But he actually turned off the phone screen without expression, which made Lu Yuwang suspect that this person must have received some pornographic information, such as soliciting prostitutes, etc., and was embarrassed to read it in public, saying maybe he would hide and watch secretly later. Lu Yuwang didn't care. Middle-aged men are lustful. He just moved his position involuntarily, closer to a girl on the other side and farther away from the uncle. Then he took out his mobile phone and sent a message. Uncle, let me tell you, the old man next to me is peeking at pornographic information, and he is also peeking at me. Just as Lu Yuwang finished sending the message, the screen of the middle-aged man's cell phone next to him lit up again, only to see him quickly turn off the screen again. Lu Yuwang felt a bit puzzled by the coincidence. He had just sent 2 messages, and the person next to him had just received 2 messages. Lu Yuwang didn't think much about it. He looked at his phone boredly, waiting for the other party to reply to messages. This uncle was indeed knowledgeable and talented, but the most annoying thing was that he never actively responded to messages. Lu Yuwang had read an article in his circle of friends. The article means that if your friend cares about you very much, then he will reply to your message instantly, otherwise he will not take you seriously. It seems that in the eyes of that uncle, I am just a chat target after all. He has time to talk to you, but he has no time to bother with you. Still no quick reply. Lu Yuwang pursed his lips and took out his phone again. Lu Chang felt relieved because he had turned off his phone and was really afraid that she would send another message and make his phone continue to ding. But it can be one or the other. 3 times in a row, he received the message just after she sent it. This was too strange. Even if Lu Yuwang didn't come to snatch his phone, she still stared at him with probing and doubtful eyes. It is inevitable. Lu Yuwang didn't want to send a message to Lu Chang'an this time. She sent it to An Nuan. When you send a message to Lu Chang'an, does he reply instantly? An Nuan replied to Lu Yuwang instantly. He didn't have the heart to play with his phone all the time. He basically wouldn't touch it when he was doing other things. He only looked at it when he remembered to look at it after finishing. As for replying messages, just let it happen. When Lu Yuwang received such an answer, he couldn't help but wonder, could it be that the article on Moments was inaccurate? Or does Lu Chang'an not care about An Nuan at all? Thinking of this, Lu Yuwang had something to ask the uncle again, and sent a message. Uncle, my boyfriend is very slow to reply to my messages. I don't think he cares about me. Other boyfriends reply in seconds. Do you think I should break up with him? After sending the message, Lu Yuwang didn't expect the uncle to give her a quick answer. She shook her phone in boredom before she felt eyes looking at her. It turned out that Lu Yuwang sent 2 messages, and then he forgot about the middle-aged man next to him and didn't pay attention. His phone was naturally placed flat on his thigh, and he was sending messages with one finger. During this time, an elderly couple got on the subway. The middle-aged man gave up his seat, and the grandfather of the old couple let the old woman sit down. Now the middle-aged man looked at Lu Yuwang. Lu Yuwang would have given up his seat, but he didn't notice it. He quickly stood up and gave up his seat. Not to be outdone, he glared at the middle-aged man, thinking that he would give up his seat first. Does it have a sense of moral superiority? Why are you staring at me? Lu Chang'an said. Lu Yuwang was stunned for a moment. She was so good-looking, how dare he strike up a conversation with her casually? But Lu Yuwang didn't like talking to this kind of stranger, and he didn't like the middle-aged man who had a bad first impression, so he snorted and simply walked directly to the next car. There were no seats anyway. Lu Chang'an looked at Lu Yuwang's back with a bit of fun. Women are really magical creatures. Look at their faces. If he didn't have an omniscient perspective on Lu Yuwang, how could he disguise her as his own? Several identities overlapped and they were found to be the same person? He uses his magical physical fitness to play different lives? Watching Lu Yuwang leave, Lu Chang'an took out his mobile phone and turned it on, and replied to Lu Yuwang's 3 messages. Everyone has their own interests. The rise of online novels has its own social needs. I remember that the 4 masterpieces that are now enshrined in the past did not naturally occupy a high position. What's more, the threshold for novel creation has been lowered, and all kinds of novels and astonishing the creativity is shining brightly like a star. In terms of creativity and imagination that expresses mankind's strong desire to explore the unknown world, it far exceeds the past. In any field, take the essence and discard the dross. Ken. If you don't peek at others, how do you know that others are peeking at you? What's more, people may just look at you openly. After all, you are a super beautiful girl that everyone loves. You are so beautiful, just like the scenery. Likewise, it is human nature for pedestrians to stop and watch when passing by. Why are you here again? What about your boyfriend again? Should you break up with him? I think when you really face him, he shouldn't be so annoying. Otherwise, you shouldn't be the one asking here. I shouldn't have broken up with him, but he has broken up with you a long time ago. After Lu Chang'an sent the message, he waited for her to reply, because unlike him, Lu Yuwang always responded to messages very quickly. Of course, he was also very easy to get angry. He always felt that others were being mean to her and had a bad tone, so she didn't want to pay attention to him. By now. You are mean to me again. Your tone must be unpleasant, with a fierce look on your face. How can I be annoying? You are really good at thinking, and I obviously spoke in a calm and gentle tone. It's fierce, it's fierce. Yeah, I'm on the subway. I've arrived at the station. Are you taking the subway too? Yes. No. It can't be such a coincidence, right? What? Why do I have a feeling that I just saw you? No, except for a middle-aged aunt, I didn't see any beautiful girls. Haha, I thought the wretched old man I just saw reading pornographic information was you. Haha, bye, it's my turn to be angry today. Lu Yuwang was also angry. The subway stopped and she chased her to the original carriage. She could no longer see the middle-aged man. She couldn't help but feel a little shy, a little expectant, and a little nervous. Could it really be such a coincidence? If it was him, he probably didn't realize that she wasn't actually in Nuan, right? No, there is absolutely no such coincidence. Lu Yuwang suddenly realized with some frustration that no one would think of her as a middle-aged aunt when they saw her, so there was no such romantic encounter. Although my goal has not been achieved, it can be considered that I have achieved the effect I wanted, which is to update more. As for some readers who think that I have to update 10 times before voting for a monthly ticket, I'm sorry, I can't get your monthly ticket today. Readers who are satisfied with Xiaoziahua's 5 chapters, give me your monthly vote. I felt dizzy after writing 4 chapters. The chapters were all wrong. 5 chapters may be the limit of middle-aged Xiaoziyahua. Go to sleep. Good night everyone, I will still shout 10 updates next time. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 182. Lu Chang'an got out of the car and quickened his pace. Lu Yuwang was very beautiful and very cute. Beautiful women are common in this world, but lovely women are rare. Beautiful and lovely women are rare. Like mother, like daughter. Lu Chang'an quickened his pace, of course not because he was worried that Lu Yuwang would catch up with him. Since she had been playing the role of a beautiful girl on Weibo, she would not want to expose herself. Of course it didn't matter from his point of view, but in her opinion, it's still a shameful thing. He just wanted to go to the parking lot quickly. After all, his original intention was to save parking fees. Otherwise, why would he take the subway? Walking is healthy and environmentally friendly, and it can also accumulate strain-related energy. After walking for a while, Lu Chang'an realized that Lu Yuwang should get off at the next stop. The next stop was Lushan Station, and there was a beautiful woman on the top of Lushan Mountain who was related to Yechinayu in one way or another. A woman who looks like Yesijin, and a man who still retains Yechinayu's identity. It gives people a feeling that time has finally passed, they have not seen Yuren grow old alone, and the two of them have spent 100 years together. Although this feeling is not real, because after all, that woman is no longer Yesijin, she just looks like her. But this sudden thought still made Lu Chang'an willing to walk to the top of Lushan Mountain, just to pay a few dollars more for parking. What's more, seeing Qinyanan like this can be used as a final test. Whether Yesijin has any influence on Qinyanan can be judged when Qinyanan sees Yechinayu. So Lu Chang'an gave up saving money on parking fees and slowly walked up to the top of Lushan Mountain. For locals, they won't stop going to free attractions because they are used to seeing them. Most of them are people who have been walking up to the top of the mountain in their free time for 10 years. The twilight shrouds the trees, making the shade of the trees cooler and the mountain scenery more beautiful. Going deeper, there were far more people waving cattail fans and wearing tank tops and beach shorts than tourists along the way. Lu Chang'an was dressed neatly today and felt a little regretful that he did not become one of the people in vests and shorts. Picking up the bright beads of light cast by a mountain of street lamps, he walked leisurely to the public platform on the top of Lushan Mountain. The city lights in the distance were brilliant, and the mountains nearby were as deep as the sea. Lu Chang'an turned his head and looked at Qinyanan's private viewing balcony next to him. Qinyanan was not there, but Lu Chang'an saw a figure, Ma Weiming. A young and handsome man, a hero among men, an elite, and the president of a unicorn company. In short, he is a figure who exudes dazzling light. Like the sun, probably only fairies like Zhu Huntang can float around on the sun. Although no one held an umbrella for Ma Weiming at night, Ma Weiming still exuded an outstanding temperament. He was talking to the middle-aged man with a slight belly next to him. In terms of user acceptance, other brands no longer have the capital to compete with us. As long as we can enter the area, Mobike and AFO have no power to fight back. So now it is not us who are afraid of competition, but them. We still have to maintain growth. Our plan to sink into 4th and 5th tier cities, as well as the continuously expandable 4-round plus 2-round business, will eventually shake up the industry, so it is necessary to be low-key now. The more low-key the more amazing. No one thought that all our regrets had become our advantages. We did not have enough resources and funds to support entering first-tier cities, but we also avoided the fierce and bloody battle between Mobike and AFO and opened up in the 2nd and 3rd tiers, which seemed to have smaller markets. Tuotu has harvested a large number of long-tail users, won a time window, and accumulated reputation and operational experience. The middle-aged man nodded repeatedly. Mr. Ma, what you are saying is that you are far-sighted. In addition to bike sharing, other industries under Mr. Ma are also making rapid progress. My father also said that young heroes like Mr. Ma will eventually become the 3rd horse. It's too praised, it's too praised. Ma Weiming smiled and waved his hand. Since it's an exaggerated praise, why are you still smiling so happily? An extremely inappropriate voice sounded, and both Ma Weiming and the middle-aged man turned around unexpectedly. A big fist quickly flew in front of Ma Weiming's face. Ma Weiming had no time to dodge and fell to the ground as his vision went dark. Lu Chang'an beat Ma Weiming without hesitation. As for why he beat Ma Weiming, there was no special reason. Anyway, it would be no trouble. After beating Ma Weiming, Qinyanan finally showed her face on her balcony. She looked at the scene with some surprise, but she neither stopped nor stopped, because she felt that she and Ma Weiming there is no friendship in terms of name, not to mention that this guy is still pursuing her. If she meddles in his own business, the other party will think that she has a crush on him, so what should she do? But the one who hit him looked familiar. Qin Yinan took a closer look and found that he looked very much like Senior Yechinayu when he was young. But that definitely couldn't be Senior Yechinayu. Even Senior Yechinayu had a gentle temperament when he was young, but he didn't have this clean and violent energy of drawing out his fists to hit people. On the other hand, my little cousin is also so confident in beating people. Lu Chang'an raised his head and looked at Qin Yinan, smiled with his teeth, and then ignored Ma Weiming and the shouting middle-aged man, and went straight down the mountain. He could confirm that Qin Yinan staring at him with such an expression was indeed just Qin Yinan. If Yesijin could influence Qin Yinan's reaction, but there was no way he could be so calm. That was the woman who would swoop towards him like a swallow every time she saw him. The faces of Yechinayu and Yesijin finally reappeared on the same occasion in places other than photos. Her face, his smile. After Lu Chang'an did such a thing that satisfied his feelings, he left Lushan. He didn't know whether he was disappointed or relieved. A little disappointed. If Yesijin can live as long as Qin Peng, Suzayakuai and others, even if she is gray-haired now, Lu Chang'an will still regard her as the beautiful little girl of the past. She disappeared into time after all. What is somewhat reassuring is that Qin Yinan is still Qin Yinan after all. If her soul is replaced by someone else, it will be the same as death. Lu Chang'an returned to the parking lot, sat in the car and played with his face. After a while, he returned to his original appearance. He neatly packed his clothes, pants, and shoes, put on a vest and large pants, and put on a herringbone suit. Slippers. He had to pay an extra 2 hours for parking, plus the 3 yuan for taking the subway, and he had to sell a few more bowls of noodles tomorrow to earn back. Lu Chang'an was a little bored, thinking about boring things, dispelling all the emotions in his heart. Remembering him didn't have much meaning, and it couldn't affect what he wanted to do next. He was a person who wanted to live a healthy and lively life. The next focus is still on Mrs. Karnstein, and to contact Mrs. Karnstein, the third wife must be dealt with. Third wife, please come and have some rice noodles tomorrow. No surprise, no surprise, no surprise. Asking for a monthly ticket. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 183. Lushan Mountain. The scenery at night is still very charming. It is a pity that, in terms of artistic conception, all the beautiful words are just like the song Sapphire Case New Year's Eve. If we want to describe the prosperity of the city, it cannot be better. Looking at the tide is fascinating. Of course, a wide-angle panoramic photo that modern people are accustomed to is enough to amaze the ancients. Maybe they would throw away their pens and ink for a while and sigh, what's the use of studying painting for 30 years? All the above is nonsense. Ma Weiming was helped up by the middle-aged man. He felt sore all over his body, especially the outside of his arms and thighs. He felt that they were seriously bruised. His shoulders twitched, and his neck and chest suddenly felt extremely painful. Mr. Ma, doesn't this look like an enemy? The middle-aged man touched the back of his head. When he went to pull it, he was pushed away and hit the railing. He had to crawl for a long time before he reached Ma Weiming's side. Yeah, it's strange. I don't know this person. Ma Weiming thought about it. He had never seen the person just now, and he didn't even have any impression of him. Although the other person punched and kicked him, it was obvious that he didn't want to kill him. The intention seems to be just to do something about something not too big or too small. I felt unhappy and was too lazy to talk nonsense with him, So I took action. Ma Weiming is of course a business talent. People who have achieved success in this area, except for some technical entrepreneurs who may be lacking, most are very good at sensing each other's motives. This person didn't have a deep grudge against me, and he didn't offend the other party in any extreme way. So why did he get beaten when there was no quarrel? If you think about it carefully, just after you said excessive praise, the other party said, since you know it is excessive praise, why are you still smiling so happily? Then there were punches and kicks. What a lunatic. Could he be jealous? The middle-aged man carefully raised his finger and pointed to the viewing balcony above. Qin Yinan's figure had disappeared. Ma Weiming thought for a moment, smiled bitterly, and shook his head. I'm not saying, this woman is too ruthless. She should come down to express her condolences, right, the middle-aged man said angrily. Perhaps she thought I was a ploy. Ma Weiming had no hope. Let's call the police first. The middle-aged man secretly praised him. If he had been an ordinary dandy or an accomplished upper-class man, he would have been furious. How could he have endured such unprovoked beatings and humiliation? The unicorn company owned by Ma Weiming was already highly valued by the local government. The Ma family had been deeply involved in Juncha for many years. Ma Weiming knew that it would not take long to find the man just now. If you don't have strong support from the system, you are just a rich person. Just like ordinary people, the difference is that the sheep are thinner and the sheep are fatter. Only those whose influence has penetrated deeply into the system are rich. With the help of the driver who arrived, Ma Weiming got into the car with the middle-aged man and took a breath of cold air. Look at that girl from the Zhu family, she is so arrogant and arrogant, isn't it because of Zhu? In addition to having an influence on Taiwan's political situation, the key is to have a close relationship with the Qin family. For the Zhu family, whether it is Taiwan or the mainland, they are only two-tier investments. To become a wealthy family, you must have such qualifications. Invest politically. Mr. Ma has a far-sighted vision. The middle-aged man secretly sighed at Ma Weiming's ambition. It turned out that this young man wanted to create a wealthy family under his own control. So I don't need Qin Yinan to have any feelings for me. I just need to make a gesture of pursuit and achieve a good story. Ma Weiming looked back at the apartment hidden behind the trees in the mountains and said coldly, if it doesn't work out, there's no harm in it. Ma Weiming's car went down the mountain slightly earlier than usual. Qin Yinan looked at the driveway of Lushan from the window, and then called Lu Chang'an. Ma Weiming was beaten on the mountain today, and the person who beat him looked very much like Senior Ye when he was young. Oh, in broad daylight, I'm sorry, it's dark. How can someone act so recklessly and beat up an aspiring and outstanding young man in such a clear light? Lu Chang'an said sadly. Shouldn't the focus of your attention be on someone who looks like Senior Ye? Qin Yinan asked strangely. Why do you women always have to worry about what other people should focus on? Lu Chang'an said inexplicably, isn't it natural that my focus is different from your focus? Qin Yinan was helpless and hesitated. Anyway, I just feel weird. Yes, you are a woman, so just go with your intuition. If you want to be weird, be weird. What's so weird? Ma Weiming can't be beaten. What I find strange is, I remember that Ma Benwei was frivolous with me. You said you hated others being so frivolous and tainted with a face like Yesijan's, so you beat Ma Benwei. Qin Yinan couldn't remember Lu Chang'an's original words. How do you say it specifically, but the meaning is correct? Oh, a lot of things happened in the past. I thought I hit Ma Benwei because he had a face that deserved a beating. It turns out there was another reason for that. I don't remember. It just so happened that Ma Weiming got beaten today. Ma Weiming is pursuing me. I don't think it would be strange if you beat Ma Weiming. The reason is probably because you hate others pursuing me with the face of a great-grandmother. Qin Yinan thought about it carefully. Do you still remember the day you came to my house to make sheephead meat and show it to the little fairy? Ma Weiming was also there on the platform downstairs that day, and you met him. At that time, I thought, will you beat Ma Weiming as well? I'm not crazy. Why should I hit him when I have nothing to do? If he pursues you, I'll hit him, Lu Chang'an said incomprehensibly. What kind of logic is this? There is no reason at all. I don't know either. Anyway, when Ma Weiming was beaten today, I thought of you. Qinyan and was also a little confused and didn't know what she was talking about. Of course she didn't suspect that it was Lu Chang'an who came here pretending to be Yechinayu. Ma Weiming gave Ma Weiming a beating. How could Lu Chang'an, with his idle temperament, mess around for her? This kind of violent beating of the suitor must be regarded as jealousy. No matter how crazy Lu Chang'an was, he would not pretend to be his great-grandfather to do such a thing. Have you been sleepwalking recently? Lu Chang'an asked smoothly. No. No. Qinyan seemed to be still thinking about something and hesitated before answering. Then you go comfort Mr. Ma. This phone call makes me seem like a suspect. Lu Chang'an took a breath and said seriously, even if it was Yechinayu who did it, it can't be me. Lu Chang'an, I did it, I swear to God. Who asked you to swear? I just felt that I remembered it for no reason. Anyway, my mind is messed up. It's okay. I heard that you are selling rice noodles. Yeah, come and eat some fans when you have time. Good. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 184. It seems that everyone knows that Lu Chang'an sells rice noodles. Everyone knows that he is selling rice noodles, and everyone wants to taste his rice noodles. Of course everyone in the classmate group knew about it, and An Nuan even took a screenshot to show Lu Chang'an the note she had changed for him, Mifengxia. Lu Chang'an recalled the image of a superhero who jumped into the air, faced the evil boss, and sprayed countless white rice noodles all over his body. It was a bit disgusting, so Lu Chang'an refused the title. Some classmates suggested forming a group to eat noodles. Miao Yingying suggested that Lu Chang'an find a takeout platform with loose qualifications to do takeout. This seemed to be a very good and practical suggestion, which made Lu Chang'an suspect that it was Gao Duai who inspired Miao Yingying, because in Lu Chang'an's eyes, Miao Yingying should only sigh delicious, good time, and so on, and then have no other thoughts. Bai Hui believes that this is one of the ways to monetize the attention and traffic of internet celebrities. Many stores and brands are desperately looking for marketing accounts to promote. It would be a pity that Lu Chang'an does not take advantage of the favorable conditions at the right time and place. After some operation, even you can appear on one of the more famous variety shows in Shonen. Lu Chang'an just listened to it. He was just selling rice noodles. As for Zhou Shuling taking over in the future, she had the mind and energy to do it. Lu Chang'an could give her all these suggestions. Lu Chang'an really thinks that the only people who should come and taste his rice noodles are Qinyan and An Nuan, because Qinyan knows how to appreciate it, and because An Nuan's relationship is different. Unfortunately, the beautiful girl is busy with football games recently, and the final will be tomorrow. I hope she can play a super long game. In terms of level, the opponents in this league are very strong, but the overall strength of the affiliated middle school is still a little behind. After Lu Chang'an beat two people, he drove the transport truck back to the community. When he stopped the car, a gust of wind happened to pass by and the leaves were whirling. Lu Chang'an got out of the car, twisted his body left and right, then patted his cheek, and naturally wanted to walk in the direction of the mahjong parlor. Then he remembered that he had not eaten dinner yet, and hurriedly went back to cook. Under the sycamore tree, Zhou Dongdong was sitting on a small bench, holding half a watermelon and eating it with a spoon. "Why are you sitting here eating watermelon?" Lu Chang'an asked. "Grandpa Qian gave me a watermelon, but I wanted to take it home but was afraid of breaking it, so I took a spoon and ate it." Zhou Dongdong dug out a big spoon. "I'll eat it for you." Lu Chang'an looked at Zhou Dongdong, who had several watermelon seeds and pulp on his face, and refused without hesitation, even though he also likes to eat watermelon. Lu Chang'an prepared the meal. Zhou Dongdong ran over to taste a little, and then ran back to eat the watermelon. After Lu Chang'an finished eating, Zhou Dongdong also finished the watermelon, scooped it clean with a spoon, and made a watermelon hat. Wear it on your head and run around under the sycamore tree, or imitate the uncle's posture of the People's Liberation Army and walk with your hands swinging from left to right. Lu Chang'an dug out a thin layer of her watermelon hat to improve the comfort, and then found a long rooster tail feather and inserted it on the top of her watermelon hat. Now Zhou Dongdong felt that he was even more so majestic. I look forward to wearing a watermelon hat to school tomorrow. Lu Chang'an also took a photo of her and sent it to Zhou Shuling. Zhou Shuling was very helpless. Most adults would basically stop or educate children when they saw them misbehaving, but Lu Chang'an was like a dog-headed strategist who also wanted to make suggestions. But Zhou Shuling still feels very relieved. Sometimes when she goes home, she sees Zhou Dongdong sitting alone in the living room watching TV. Only the light of the TV shines on her little face. She sees Zhou Dongdong running away by himself. Zhou Shuling would always feel particularly distressed when she went to a mahjong parlor in a corner with a group of chattering old people playing small games on old computers, but every time she saw her and Lu Chang'an together, despite their mischievous behavior, Zhou Shuling felt extremely distressed. I was speechless, but I felt that this was the childhood Zhou Dongdong should have had, that naughty boy. When Zhou Dongdong took a shower in the evening, she was supposed to be beaten, but Zhou Shuling let her go. However, when she was washing her hair and taking a shower, she found a lot of watermelon seeds in her hair and body. Zhou Dongdong also tried to argue that she was keeping the seeds. Watermelon, Zhou Shuling got a hard time. The next morning, Lu Chang'an smiled when he saw the aggrieved Zhou Dongdong. It seemed that he had either been beaten or scolded. My mother won't let me wear the general watermelon hat to school. Zhou Dongdong was very sad. I don't have any dignity anymore. You can bully other children to prove that you are powerful. I don't want to, I want to bully the bad guys. Zhou Dongdong hugged Lu Chang'an's thigh and exerted force. But bad guys usually have good things to eat. Zhou Dongdong was startled for a moment, very embarrassed. But if you let bad people bully you just for the sake of delicious food, your mother will be sad. Lu Chang'an touched Zhou Dongdong's head. Zhou Dongdong woke up and jumped up. It turns out that even if the bad guys have good food, they are still bad guys and must run far away. Will Brother Chang'an be sad? There will be a little bit of sadness like watermelon seeds. Isn't it okay for the watermelon to be so big? Zhou Dongdong said angrily. No, who made you so stupid? If you meet a bad person with delicious food, your brain will not work well. It's easy, it's easy, it's easy. Okay, let's get over the pain of being as big as a watermelon, Lu Chang'an said reluctantly. Zhou Dongdong laughed, forgetting that he was not impressive, and went to school happily. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Shuling went to sell rice noodles. Today, Zhou Shuling prepared 2 white aprons for herself and Lu Chang'an to wear. She also prepared a sign that read Juncha Internet Celebrity Red Soup Spicy Rooster Noodles. The president of Bailong Center once visited, full of praise. What kind of branding can the president of Bailong Center have? Lu Chang'an was very doubtful, and he didn't know whether Zhu Huntang or the third wife directly held this position. It didn't look like it. The third wife might be unavailable, and Zhu Huntang had nothing to do. Not like someone who has a job. Of course, rich people like to eat it, and other people must subconsciously think it tastes good. People nowadays only know how to imitate rich people. Even if they can't drive a good car and live in a mansion like rich people, eating delicious rice noodles like rich people will also satisfy people, Zhou Shuling said with some pride. I thought about this idea for a long time. Wise Lu Chang'an nodded, but then he remembered that neither the third wife nor Zhu Huntang had eaten a bite. Is this false advertising? Never mind. Lu Chang'an was looking forward to the third wife coming to eat rice noodles. This wife came for 2 days, but she didn't come in the middle. She probably won't come back today. His expectations will probably be disappointed, but of course the reason why he is looking forward to it is that he still feels that it's possible, because if nothing unexpected happened, Pu Shaogen would definitely contact the third wife yesterday. Pu Shaogen had no way to contact Mrs. Karnstein, so naturally he could only contact the third wife. If a person like Pu Shaogen encounters such a thing and doesn't try to take advantage of it, then he is not Pu Shaogen. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 185. A smile is on his face, his voice is neither too high nor too low, his enthusiasm is moderate, and he allows customers to feel at ease. These are the basic qualities of doing business. Lu Chang'an is serious about selling fans. It's a pity that the third wife didn't show up, Zhu Huntang didn't show up, and even Zhongqing didn't come. The three big fans of Beilong Center were silent today. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Chang'an to send a message to ask them why they didn't come to eat fans today. He was not an impatient person. Although he was very interested in Mrs. Karnstein, even if he had contact with her 100 years later, he would not. It took too long for him to feel. If Mrs. Karnstein is dead 100 years later, it means that she has nothing to be curious about. She can't even live for 1,000 years, which is too rare and ordinary. Lu Chang'an thought of a turtle he once raised. Its name is Li Wang. Why is it called Li Wang? Because Lu Chang'an thought it was very powerful and could eat grass, he named it Li Wang. King Li died less than 300 years old when Lu Chang'an thought it should still be a child. From then on, Lu Chang'an no longer believed in the 1,000-year-old king and the 80,000-year-old turtle. He also preferred to raise some animals and plants that are not easy to die. He once a thing now called Antarctic sponge was discovered on the bottom of the Antarctic. After wandering around Antarctica for 100 years, he went to check it out. When he went back 1,000 years later, he found that those things were still innocent, lively, healthy, and happy. However, things like Antarctic sponges are not suitable for migration and cultivation, not to mention that they did not show any affection for Lu Chang'an after a long separation. Lu Chang'an lost interest after visiting them a few times. There are also some animals that live a long time, such as round clams. Lu Chang'an even found some round clams that were more than 600 years old. After eating them, he found that the taste was average and nothing special. In fact, sea cucumbers and abalone have different grades in different years. They all taste the same and have similar nutritional values. To say that the very high-grade varieties are more nutritious, it is the same if you eat more of the low-grade ones. Everyone has different grades of the same species. In the happy growth, the genes are the same after all. As for the taste of food, things like sea cucumber and abalone have no taste at all. They rely on cooking ingredients. In the art of eating, they are expensive and cheap ingredients. Lu Chang'an was selling his own bowl of red soup spicy chicken noodle for 10 yuan. He was thinking about sea cucumbers and abalone, and wondering if he could catch something from the sea next time he went to the beach. It's a pity that Zhou Dongdong can't dive. If you take her to the bottom of the sea, you might grab the coral reefs and chew them. After all, many coral reefs look delicious. Lu Chang'an was just thinking about all this when he suddenly heard Zhou Shuling scream and turned around quickly, only to see a tall black bald man overturning the steamer in front of Zhou Shuling with one hand. The hot bun flew up and hit Zhou Shuling's arm. It was so hot that she jumped to the side, shocked and angry. "What are you doing?" Lu Chang'an pulled Zhou Shuling behind him, moved forward, and slapped her. Ordinary people will not die if they are photographed by him, but they will definitely be knocked to the ground by him, like a kitchen knife slapping garlic on a chopping board. The bald man smiled coldly and actually avoided Lu Chang'an's slap. Lu Chang'an was a little surprised. Zhou Shuling pulled him, and Lu Chang'an pulled her hand away, walked forward step by step, and looked at the bald man coldly. "Who are you?" Are you out of your mind? Do you think you are a foreigner and you can do whatever you want? Zhou Shuling touched her red arm and said angrily. Is your hand okay? Lu Chang'an asked. It's okay. Zhou Shuling shook her head aggrievedly. Making a living is not easy, and it is common for those who run small businesses to encounter mean people who like to make things difficult for others, but there are very few people who will come up to stir up trouble at every turn. In the pharmacy opposite, go buy some burn plaster and apply it. The scar will be ugly. Lu Chang'an pointed to the pharmacy in front of him and said. Zhou Shuling was stunned for a moment. Lu Chang'an couldn't easily question Lu Chang'an's commanding tone, so Zhou Shuling had no choice but to run over. What are you doing? It's nothing to bully a woman. Call the police. Do you think this is southern Guangdong? Beat him. The people around were filled with indignation, because most of the regular customers and residents of the community knew that Zhou Shuling was a single mother with a bouncing little girl. The bald black man took a bun, smiled coldly, took a bite of the bun, threw it away, then turned around and ran away. Help look after the stall and wait for Zhou Shuling to come back. Lu Chang'an casually spoke to an acquaintance and chased after him. The bald man was wearing a pair of Nike and Alco branded shoes. As he ran, he looked back at Lu Chang'an. Fortunately, he had time to do a layup, and then suddenly accelerated his speed and ran wildly. Lu Chang'an looked around and accelerated suddenly, but the bald man suddenly got into an SUV with the door opened. The speed of cars in the city is not too fast, but Lu Chang'an's running speed is already a bit scary, but the speed of the car slows down, as if he doesn't want Lu Chang'an to catch up, but he doesn't want to get rid of Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an sneered, but slowed down and followed the car leisurely. I ran from Taiping Street to Wuyi Road, crossed Zhezhou Bridge from Wuyi Road, passed Rongwan Town and Yinpenling, and gradually became quieter. The car drove into a dilapidated factory building. This is the Juncha Zinc Factory, which belongs to the memory of the old Juncha people. It is probably known to the new generation of young people because the 2009 Happy Boys filmed a promotional video here. Of course Lu Chang'an knew this place. It was also a good place for many photographers to invite Kozer to produce some industrial punk and heavy industrial style films. It is surrounded by places facing demolition, desolate and desolate. All the factories have not been taken care of all year round. The floors are covered with ivy, wisps, and tangles, seeming to seal up the history and stories together, leaving them to be opened by future generations. What you see may be just dust. The car stopped, the black bald man jumped out, and a white man with a stronger figure stepped out of the driver's seat. He stood on both sides of the car, and then slowly walked towards Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an noticed from the corner of his eye that there was a drone on the roof of a factory building, and there were some cameras vaguely hidden around it. The other party is trying to lure him here. Who is watching him behind these cameras? No matter what your purpose is, to me, it means you destroyed my neighbor's breakfast stall, paid for it, and apologized. Lu Chang'an was reasonable and reasonable. The black man and the white man looked at each other, couldn't help but laugh, and even wanted to rap for a while. Unexpectedly, Lu Chang'an not only had no vigilance against such an obvious trap, but instead pursued trivial matters. There will be another update later, around 2:30. It was originally supposed to be updated last night, but the cold medicine was very powerful and I woke up very late after falling asleep. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 186. The black man is called Pierre and the white man is called Qi. They are brothers. Yes, they are brothers. This kind of thing is very rare, but it is not uncommon. Pierre and Qi's father is white and their mother is black. Pierre was born black, or his skin is brown and darker, similar to It's different for gay. He was born white. The chance of this is only 1 in a million, but as someone said, as long as something has a chance to happen, it will definitely happen. If it happens in this, if it doesn't happen in this world, then it will definitely happen in other dimensional universes. Key's birth caused quite a stir, and some medical research associations sponsored some fertility awards for Pierre and Key's parents. However, after all, this was just the emergence of a genetic combination, and there was not much worth studying. After the sensation, the two brothers, one black and one white, became a local joke. You must know that in the country where Key and Peele lived, the people at the bottom were not only uneducated and uninformed, but only wanted to have children, receive subsidies, and play with sticks. Keen to ridicule and bully those who appear to be special. At this time, a medical organization that had previously paid attention to Key and Pierre found the two brothers and gave them the opportunity to leave the bottom community. The real name of this medical organization was not clear to Key and Peele at this time, but as they grew up, they did not rebel, betray, or hate this medical organization as shown in many Hollywood movies. On the contrary, they were very grateful. Because they have become more and more aware that without this medical organization, they would be like the children in the neighborhood before, still living like maggots, sucking the pus of that country. Of course, they also need to cooperate with some experiments, training, and tasks. In short, this kind of life is very happy. Last time Key and Pierre returned to China, they met a trash who bullied them when they were children. The two brothers did not hesitate to kill him and then threw him in the trash can. Was clean and no trouble was caused. This time their mission was slightly different from the past. It was not an experiment or a killing, it was just a fight with the young man in front of them. Provoke him, collect his data, and get away. The young man in front of them, whom they had obtained some information about, was named Lu Chang'an. At least he seemed to be physically stronger than ordinary people. After dozens of kilometers, he was still calm and relaxed, not even a drop of sweat was shed. This physical fitness alone was enough to unpar with the two brothers. But they don't think they need to be too wary of this young man, because they have never encountered an opponent who can fight back with the two brothers joining forces. Especially this young man who is still preoccupied with things to share early. Such a person is obviously not a knowledgeable person. Maybe he just thinks that this person is born with something special, just like the organization observed him at the beginning. Kid, come here. Pierre stretched out his hands in front of him, beckoned with his palms upward, and tilted his head lazily. Lu Chang'an stood still and did not move. Hey, come and play with us, we know you are not an ordinary person. Ji walked around behind Lu Chang'an. It is certainly not a very difficult thing to deal with two people at the same time. Lu Chang'an has never really thought that he is a god in this world, an invincible existence, but he has never thought that there are people in this world who can use body functions, and the creatures he fought against might, maybe existed, but he had never faced them directly, so he humbly said that he was only the fifth in the world. Where he was, ligers were never kings. On the battlefield, he may not be able to single-handedly reverse the fate of the country, but there is no problem in shooting out a spear like a dragon and leaving a bloody path for him to leave. In the past few hundred years, this world has been different from the previous thousands and tens of thousands of years, and there are more threats than before. Even he has to let himself evolve, or there may be some unknown mysterious beings ready to take action. Trying to see how powerful he, who was once the loneliest man on earth, was. Wang Yubo and Pu Shaogang are the most basic existences, or the other party does not realize that Lu Chang'an is the person they are looking for. It is just a kind of trial and search. Pierre and Ji, probably too. At this time, they may have determined that the latest name of the person they are looking for is Yechinayu, and they want to find more clues by testing Lu Chang'an. In short, they are all plans and spying on him. They may suspect that Lu Chang'an is Yechinayu, they may wonder where Yechinayu is hiding, they may have other ideas, but in short, Lu Chang'an is not willing to overlap his current identity with his previous identity in the eyes of some people. Lu Chang'an didn't pay too much attention. Although today's era is more dangerous than before, essentially what he faced was not much different from when Qin Shi Huang tried to reach an agreement with him. They were all mortal greed and curiosity. He has also become stronger, and he is also curious about how the other party is more advanced than Yingzheng. For now, maybe the technical means are better, but this method of contact still has no progress worthy of praise. The human heart has not always been the same for thousands of years. You two want to go together, Lu Chang'an spoke, with anger in his tone of facing injustice. Extreme circumstances reveal your true qualities, Qi said. Extreme case? Lu Chang'an thought for a while. When he jumped out of the Bailong center, the pain all over his body and the broken bones were not an extreme situation. He was just lying there not wanting to move, waiting for his body to evolve. It's so funny. These two people actually wanted him to enter an extreme situation. Lu Chang'an opened his mouth, chuckled and then stopped abruptly. This kind of smile is full of sarcasm. A girl can laugh like this 3 times, and a man can laugh like this 3 times. Okay, smiling too much makes you appear frivolous. Such laughter was indeed very sarcastic. Pierre snorted coldly and rushed forward with the force of a strong wind, carrying debris and unknown ingredients on the ground. Although it was not as good as the inspection movement, the cold snort was brought to Lu Chang'an's ears very quickly, and he punched Lu Chang'an hard in the face. The muscles in Lu Chang'an's cheeks twitched, and there was a trace of hesitation in his eyes. It seemed that he had no time to judge the next move, and his body could barely avoid it. At this time, the sound of breaking wind rang in his ears, and Ji's fist came to Lu Chang'an's face. As soon as they started, they wanted to hit their heads with a heavy fist. If it was a fight between ordinary people, they probably wouldn't think that hitting someone's head would be the best choice. But for Pierre and Qi, this was a threat of death. A punch to the head would look like it's a beautiful scene to explode like tofu pudding. Do you want to be beaten? Lu Chang'an glanced at the drone from the corner of his eye, but his body's instinct was to avoid it. It was his turn to fight back. I recommend the book club group 7418254442. The group owner is the old man from the Million Alliance, and the administrator is Xia Hua. If there are any future outbreaks or updates, they will be posted in the group. If you have any questions, you can also discuss them in the group or send a private message to Xia Hua. It is meaningful. Question, I will reply when I see it. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xia Hua. Chapter 187. Lu Chang'an has been trying to make the people who are looking for Yechinayu in Juncha target Yechinayu, but in fact, when these people are looking for Yechinayu to no avail, they will still use great-grandson to achieve their goals. In other words, the trouble is still with him, but because he is the great-grandson, those who want to meet Yechinayu will not go to battle in person. If you want those people to go into battle in person, you must first let them understand that sending these cats and dogs will not help at all. If he shows too much weakness, I'm afraid these combinations of black and white Oreos will continue to appear one after another. Next time, it might be a combination like crab roe buns. Lu Chang'an avoided the simultaneous attacks of Pierre and Ji, took a few steps back, and raised his hand to signal a pause. Pierre turned a blind eye and wanted to attack again, but was stopped by Qi. What does he want to do? Qi said. Do you know Yechinayu? Lu Chang'an knew very well that the images here would definitely be recorded and disseminated. Marvin yeah, Pierre frowned, obviously he had never heard of it. For them, performing a task is performing a task, and they don't need to know or care about other things. Lu Chang'an turned around and ran away. His speed wasn't too amazing, but Pierre and Ji had just been distracted by him, and they didn't expect to run away after just one word from him. Pierre and Ji were stunned for a moment, and then decided to chase after them, because their mission was to fight Lu Chang'an here and collect data from the battle. There was no backup method for handling the situation at hand. Chase, Ji decided. It seemed that he could only catch up with Lu Chang'an first, and then take him back to the camera. Then we can't beat him to death and then bring him back. We must preserve his combat effectiveness so that the data collected will be meaningful. Pierre also understood what Qi meant. Bring Lu Chang'an under the cameras so that he can no longer escape and force him to risk his life. This is the data with practical significance. If Lu Chang'an was beaten to death by two people and then brought back, his body would be damaged, his movements, speed, and reactions would be ability cannot be truly reflected, and such data analysis is meaningless. But seeing Lu Chang'an like this, it really makes people want to beat him up. It seems that they can only wait for his data to be collected before getting rid of him. Lu Chang'an ran to the zinc factory. When the zinc factory was still booming and engaged in large-scale production, Lu Chang'an had been here before, and he had some understanding of the terrain, equipment, and factory layout. Now many people have never seen a large factory. No one has a general understanding of the floor space of this kind of factory. Lu Chang'an shuttled through the factory for more than 10 minutes, listening to the footsteps and shouts behind him, and finally came to an abandoned deep well. Of course, abandoned factories will not be completely without any maintenance. Places like deep wells will be sealed to avoid accidents. This deep well leads to an underground waste disposal facility. Now the underground passage is completely locked, and ordinary people who break in for fun cannot open it. Look where you're going, Pierre said angrily. I suggest you just surrender. Ji sneered and licked his tongue. Lu Chang'an ignored them, turned around, and forcefully broke the chain that blocked the abandoned well. Pierre and Ji looked at each other. How could he break such a thick iron chain? Or is it already corroded enough to be fragile? Come on. Lu Chang'an opened the abandoned well and walked back. Pierre pulled a steel bar from the nearby work rack and held it in his hand, while Qi picked up a long iron shaft as thick as an arm. Pierre rushed up, as fast as the wind. When he appeared beside him, Lu Chang'an turned sideways slightly, but Pierre's wrist turned, and the steel bar still hit Lu Chang'an's arm hard. The corners of Pierre's mouth curled up into a sinister smile. This time, he didn't even think about it. I didn't expect to be able to hit Lu Chang'an. He glanced at Lu Chang'an from the corner of his eye, only to find that Lu Chang'an was looking at him expressionlessly. A strange feeling came from him, but it felt like he had hit cotton, and all his power disappeared without a trace. No, it feels like being absorbed. It was as if he didn't have any power attached to him this time. He just touched Lu Chang'an's arm lightly. Why are you dazed? Ji also gave Lu Chang'an a pause. Their purpose was not to cripple Lu Chang'an, so naturally they had reservations. What's the surprise that Lu Chang'an could withstand it? Ji's expression soon became similar to that of Pierre. The two brothers looked at each other and secretly felt that something was wrong. Steel bars and iron shafts suddenly rained down on Lu Chang'an. It's just that there is no difference in the feeling of each blow. All the power disappeared without a trace after hitting Lu Chang'an's body. What kind of physique is this? While Pierre and Ji were surprised, they gradually began to feel something bad. If the fight continued like this, it would be like hitting sandbags all the time. Sooner or later, the two brothers' strength would be exhausted, but nothing would happen to the other side. Who are you? Pierre was shocked and angry. You came here because you didn't want to expose your abilities. Ji thought that the two brothers might have been plotted by each other. Lu Chang'an suddenly opened his hands and held the steel bar and the iron shaft respectively. Pierre and Ji felt as if the steel bars and iron shafts had grown on Lu Chang'an's body. No matter how hard they exerted force, they remained motionless. At this moment, Lu Chang'an swung the steel bar, and the steel bar fell off Pierre's hand and hit Pierre's arm hard. The steel bar bent, and Pierre roared, feeling severe pain in his arm. Seeing Lu Chang'an push the iron shaft, Ji's body flew out and hit a broken loading truck, and a big dent was made in the door. The car tilted and fell to the ground with a boom. Ji's figure rolled and struggled in the dust. Base. Pierre roared angrily, but Lu Chang'an punched his other arm. There was a severe pain like breaking in both arms. Pierre knew that neither he nor the organization had miscalculated today. Before his legs were injured, Pierre rolled and pulled out, ready to leave Ji and run away. Lu Chang'an watched Pierre run for a while, then picked up the iron bar and threw it out. The iron bar flew quickly against the ground and hit Pierre's calf. Pierre's body seemed to be hit by a cross-river iron cable. He was shot out and hit the wall. Dust fell in a shower. Lu Chang'an walked over and dragged Pierre's legs back. Ji struggled to climb out of the feeding truck, and when he saw this scene, he couldn't help but retreat. "You can't run away." Lu Chang'an looked at Ji expressionlessly. "What do you want?" Ji felt a sharp pain in his back. He didn't expect that he and Pierre, whose physiques were several times stronger than ordinary people, could not withstand Lu Chang'an's gentle push. "I swear to God, I will let you go." Lu Chang'an swore seriously. "Besides, if I don't let you go, should I kill you and take you back to be sold as meat? I tell you, human flesh cannot be eaten." "Yes, you know Kuru disease, right? Kuru disease is the earliest human prion infection to be studied. It is an incurable degenerative human transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. It is similar to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease and is often infected by eating human flesh. The probability is very high." "Wait." Ji had to interrupt Lu Chang'an. "As long as you let us go, I promise you, I will tell you everything we know." "I swear to God." Lu Chang'an nodded, then sat next to him. "Hurry up, I'll reply to some messages." This chapter has deleted irrelevant and vulgar passages, which will not affect the plot. After Lu Chang'an sent the message, he picked up Pierre and threw it into the abandoned well. Screams came from the abandoned well, and there was no sound after the scream. Pierre, Ji climbed to the edge of the abandoned well and looked at Lu Chang'an with a mixture of shock and anger. Lu Chang'an did not immediately throw Ji into the abandoned well. "How can you keep your word?" Ji climbed up, his eyes full of fear and anger. Lu Chang'an was stunned for a moment. "Isn't it a matter of course that words don't count? You swore to God." Ji hoped that these Chinese people would at least have a little respect for the heaven they respected so much. As expected, people without faith are not worthy of trust. There is a saying, "Bitches have their own destiny." "I am your destiny." Lu Chang'an didn't care. "I am the destiny, I forgive me for breaking my oath." Ji stared at Lu Chang'an dumbfounded. He had nothing to say. Of course he didn't accept Lu Chang'an's reasons, but he had never seen such a shameless person. "Now, I have a few questions to ask you. If you answer them, I will let you go." Lu Chang'an raised his hand. "I swear to God." As soon as Ji turned around, he jumped into the abandoned well. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 188. Lu Chang'an frowned slightly. He didn't let him die. How could he make his own decision? Lu Chang'an flashed over, grabbed Ji's calf, lifted him up, found a corner and threw him over. "You led me here, and then jumped into the well one after another to commit suicide. Are you kidding me?" Lu Chang'an was disgusted with others treating him like this. "Pierre was killed by you. He committed suicide in humiliation after being hummed by you. He didn't commit suicide. If you threw him into the well, did you think I was blind?" Ji felt that he was about to collapse. "A straight man fell in love with you and then wanted to commit suicide in humiliation. Is this something difficult to understand? I just understood him and supported him. Then I saw that it was not convenient for him to have his hands and feet broken, so I helped him finish it. His will, of course he committed suicide." Lu Chang'an looked at Ji with disdain. "I didn't expect that you not only forced your brother to have his limbs broken, but also insulted his will to die rather than be humiliated. God will not forgive you." Lu Chang'an has always believed that many countries must believe in God according to the will of the country. In this way, after doing many evil things, they can repent to God. After God forgives, who can hold them accountable? God has forgiven me, why do you accuse me again? Ji looked at Lu Chang'an with dull eyes. Is this how a cat plays with a mouse? Qi has collapsed. What is the purpose of coming to me today? Bring you here, fight with you, and collect your body's combat data for analysis. What organization do you belong to? Tesla Biomedical Research Center. Oh, Tesla, very famous. No. Nikola Tesla Biomedical Research Center. G couldn't help but show a hint of pride. We are a research center that is related to Nikola Tesla. Yeah, I didn't say you sell electric cars. Nikola Tesla is a very powerful person, I think I know him, but the Nikola Tesla I know is a woman. Lu Chang'an, after thinking about it, my memory is a little fuzzy. Of course our Nikola Tesla is not a woman, Qi said contemptuously. What does your organization do? The collapsed gene seemed to know everything, engaged in research on human ultimate potential and biological genetic modification. Where is your organization? They are everywhere, but the vast majority are medical organizations that operate normally and will temporarily or permanently change their functions when necessary. It's amazing, Lu Chang'an said sincerely. Your physical fitness can reach S level within our organization. If you can cooperate with our organization, it will be very good for you. You must know that as an individual, it is difficult to fight against us. G calmed down, finally thinking, burning the desire to live and seeking death. Once the courage you muster is gone, it will be difficult to muster the courage again. Ji was a little scared now. If Lu Chang'an hadn't caught him just now, he might have become a puddle of meat mixed with Pierre. Although they are brothers, there is no need to die together like this. Is S-class the most powerful? No, there are SS levels and SSS levels above S level. We are a level combatants. We don't know exactly how powerful S level is, but it is absolutely impossible for us a level to reach S level, so you are probably S level. Maybe G also only estimated that S level and above were just legends, and no real combatants above S level had ever been seen. That's it, it turns out I'm not the best. Lu Chang'an nodded. After all, he was only 5th in the world. I've told you everything I know, can you let me go now? Ji raised his head and stared into Lu Chang'an's eyes. The light in Lu Chang'an's eyes seemed gentle and calm. Wait a minute, tell me everything about your brother's contact with this organization, in detail. Lu Chang'an was delayed in the zinc factory for a long time. He looked around and couldn't find the drone again, so he left through the abandoned factory door on the other side. The most reassuring thing about this kind of place is that there are no cameras at all. After all, if you have a camera, you need to arrange monitoring personnel, and you need to increase the salary and maintenance costs, just to keep an eye on such a ghost place. Not a good deal. With this in mind, Lu Chang'an walked back along the river. Landscape areas have been built on both sides of the river that runs through the city. It's just that such a long passage cannot be carefully crafted. It is nothing more than planting some green belts and placing some things with unclear meanings. It seems to have no aesthetic feeling, but it must be argued. You can also guess what meaning the sculpture expresses by giving some reading comprehension answers. Lu Chang'an admired these sculptures all the way, and then supplemented the artistic concepts expressed by these sculptures for the manufacturer. When he saw a sculpture of a woman who seemed to be wearing a full-body rubber coat, with enlarged lower limbs and empty eyes, Lu Chang'an felt that he had to think of a better and better sculpture for it. When he was having trouble getting his design ideas accepted, his phone rang. Garbage. Lu Chang'an was too lazy to think about it. He gave the sculpture a practical evaluation and went to answer the phone. Lu Chang'an, I'm so nervous, and Nguyen called, his voice trembling with excitement. What are you nervous about? Lu Chang'an asked in confusion, while looking up at the sky. There was no thunder or lightning, and there were no comets hitting the earth. Why were you nervous? Lu Chang'an couldn't remember the last time he felt nervous, how many years ago it was. Even when he was watching the coffin trigger the thunder, he mostly found it interesting and looked forward to it. You can check your college entrance examination results at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Lu Chang'an realized that the 2017 Juncha College entrance examination results inquiry was at 2 o'clock this afternoon. What's the point of being nervous? It's not your turn to be the top scorer in the province's college entrance examination, and it's not your turn to be admitted to university, Lu Chang'an said nonchalantly. Is it your turn to be the top scorer in the college entrance examination? En Nuan said unconvinced. If I am willing, there is still a chance, about 350%, but you have basically no chance, Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said with certainty. Lu Chang'an, En Nuan angrily said, the results are about to be checked, can't you say something auspicious? Others say congratulations to Nuan Nuan, there must be red lanterns hanging high, and every door will score 100 points. You are stupid. Everything is 100 points, and you only have 400 points in total. Go and repeat the exam. No, there is no hope of repeating the exam. Come and sell rice noodles with me. Then if I can only sell rice noodles, what about you? Girls in love have different brain circuits. En Nuan originally planned to be angry, but immediately asked sweetly. Of course I'm going to college, and I'll leave the business to you. After all, you only got 400 points in the exam. If I open a rice noodle stall opposite you, will you still be able to do business? Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said. Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an took his phone away a little. This was Hedong Lion Roar. By coincidence, he was in Hedong now. En Nuan yelled a few more words, but Lu Chang'an still heard clearly. En Nuan called Zhang Dao and Hans Hizi to come to her home to check the scores together, and asked Lu Chang'an to come too. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and turned off his phone first before going over, lest the little girl who always felt that others were trying to hurt her would send him another message. All kinds of requests. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 189. After Lu Chang'an turned off his mobile phone, he walked slowly towards the Juyuan community. Although he had never been to En Nuan's home, he still knew very well which buildings, units, and floors her home was on. Who hasn't had the experience of peeking at some of the personal information of a girl they like? Lu Chang'an bought a bottle of orange juice to drink, wiped his hair, and then came to the orange garden community. Downstairs of En Nuan's house, he leaned against the wall and planned to finish the orange juice first. Young man, are you hungry? Do you want some steamed buns? Lu Chang'an was stunned for a moment when he saw a plump woman handing over a big, warm white bun. This is Professor Ling, En Nuan's neighbor. Lu Chang'an has met him once. That was when Lu Chang'an and En Nuan went home holding hands and were seen by Professor Ling and Hans Hizi. Lu Chang'an took the buns over, and he happened to be a little hungry, so he ate them. It turned out to be Daiwan's meat buns, which were fragrant, soft, white, and big. Eat slowly, I still have some here. Professor Ling saw that Lu Chang'an was eating quickly and handed another one over. Lu Chang'an also answered. Soon the second steamed bun was finished. Professor Ling was surprised by Lu Chang'an's appetite, but looking at the ragged young man, he must have been hungry, so he generously handed over a bag of meat buns. Take them all and eat slowly, don't choke. Professor Ling, thank you, no need, Lu Chang'an said. Do you know me? Professor Ling was surprised and couldn't help but become a little wary. She was willing to do good deeds with good intentions, but she didn't want to be relied on. I am En Nuan's boyfriend, not a beggar. I just got into a fight with someone today and my clothes got dirty, Lu Chang'an explained. Professor Ling looked at Lu Chang'an, Surprised and amused at the same time, I just said, "Why does this young man look familiar? Are you okay?" "It's okay," Lu Chang'an shook his head. Then you go find An Nuan." "An Nuan and Ji are both at home." Professor Ling nodded and stood still. She had misunderstood just now. Firstly, Lu Chang'an was wearing rags, and secondly, he was having a drink. The intoxicating look of the orange juice always reminds Professor Ling of the picture of a homeless man who picked up the leftover drinks from other people's drinks bottles and drank them intoxicated against the background of fireworks. Lu Chang'an went upstairs and knocked on the door. From the corner of his eye, he saw Professor Ling standing at the foot of the stairs with his head sideways, looking around. An Nuan came to open the door and was shocked when she saw Lu Chang'an, who was dressed in rags. "What's the matter with you?" An Nuan saw Professor Ling standing downstairs looking around, smiled awkwardly, and quickly pulled Lu Chang'an into the living room and closed the door. "We got into a fight, a black man and a white man. They said they wanted to study me. Of course I didn't want to, so I killed them both and threw them into the well." Lu Chang'an kept the story short. "I'm going to die. My mother is at home." And Nuan saw that Lu Chang'an seemed fine. "As for how he fought, we can talk about it later, but we can't let him talk nonsense here, lest her mother finds someone else who she must break up with." Lu Chang'an later. "Reason." "Hi, beautiful girls." Lu Chang'an greeted Zhang Daol and Hans Hizi, who were looking at her in the living room. "Hi, beggar prince," Zhang Daol said enthusiastically. Hans Hizi shook her head and sighed, then turned to An Nuan and asked, "Do you want me to go back and get some clothes for him to change into?" "No need." An Nuan pointed to the separate sofa chair. "Sit down, I don't dislike him, and he probably doesn't want to wear other people's clothes." An Nuan actually noticed that although he and Lu Chang'an often pushed each other when they were still friends, he actually didn't like to have any physical contact with others. Can such a person wear other people's clothes? It's too rude of you to say that. You should say don't soil her clothes, it's more subtle. Lu Chang'an added to Hans Hizi, "Don't soil your father's clothes." Hans Hizi rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an. "We don't need to be so polite." And Nuan ran to the bathroom and took her own towel, wet it and wrung it out, and gave it to Lu Chang'an. "You wipe it." Lu Chang'an held the towel, smelled the familiar aroma, and looked at An Nuan. "Mine." And Nuan's cheeks were slightly ashamed. Lu Chang'an then wiped his face with the towel. In fact, An Nuan had this fragrance on his body, and Lu Yuwang also had it on his body, so it was difficult to tell them apart. At this time Lu Yuwang walked out. Different from the three girls who were all wearing casual shorts and t-shirts, Lu Yuwang originally wore a silk suspender skirt at home, but when An Nuan said that Lu Chang'an was invited, Lu Yuwang had to change into a navy blue one. The silk cheongsam has a complicated hollow lace design from one side of the shoulder to the bust. The lace material of the same material wraps the snow-white upper arms. The slender and tall figure swaying with the hem of the cheongsam is beautiful and moving. At first glance, the cheongsam is slit to the waist. In fact, it is connected with lace and lined with a white base. It is not really slit until a little above the knee, revealing the straight legs. There is no doubt that this kind of work has a clear designer style in design and workmanship. Lu Chang'an can recognize it as Wang Simei's explanation. Lu Chang'an, Lu Yuwang frowned slightly when he saw Lu Chang'an, and his eyes showed a hint of surprise and gentle care from his elders. "Where did you come back from wandering?" Lu Yuwang involuntarily picked up her phone and put it down again. Lu Chang'an felt that she was controlling the urge to send messages. There was a fight, but fighting is not necessarily a shortcoming for a man. It means that he has the courage to swing his fist for his family when he is in danger. You must know that in many cases, just using your mouth is useless. Lu Chang'an said immediately, lest she have another reason like "my boyfriend got into a fight today, should I break up with him?" That's true to Lu Chang'an's expectation. Lu Yuwang did not find fault with him because he was Lu Chang'an. Lu Yuwang nodded, Boys nowadays are becoming more and more effeminate, but anyway, you have to remember protect yourself, that's the most important thing. Fight when you see others can't beat you. If you see others are strong, of course you run away first. There's no shame in that. And Nuan breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that she wouldn't have to face her mother's nagging today. It was a rare occasion when she agreed with Lu Chang'an's actions. You must know that she saw that Lu Chang'an was a little slow in replying to Nuan's messages, so she suggested to Nuan. Nuan broke up with Lu Chang'an. Women are really fickle and elusive, and Nuan thought. However, Lu Chang'an noticed that Lu Yuwang was operating his mobile phone for a while, his eyes deliberately looking up at the ceiling. Lu Chang'an thought that he might still receive the photos secretly taken by Lu Yuwang. And Nuan, go get the medicine box and see if he is injured anywhere. Lu Yuwang put away his phone and said to Nuan. No need, I'm not injured. Lu Chang'an waved his hand, we were fighting just for fun. It seemed like there was a lot of movement, but in fact I just hammered it a few times. Are you really okay? Zhang Dao looked at Lu Chang'an and reported, I heard that Lu Chang'an is quite good at fighting. Several people on the school basketball team can't beat him. Where did you hear that? And Nuan bared his teeth at Zhang Dao. Is this an advantage? It was also promoted. Ma Benwei was also beaten last time. Speaking of which, Lu Chang'an, you seem to be fighting everywhere, Hans Hizi also said with sudden realization. You too, and Hua put his hands on his hips, I'll shut you up later. What are you protecting? Lu Yuwang patted Nuan's shoulder with his soft palm, I didn't say anything. Huang Shan also told me that Lu Chang'an is not someone who takes the initiative to cause trouble. You know why he fights. I don't care about your business. After saying that, Lu Yuwang walked back to the room with a swaying waist. He only told Nuan that the results were out and told her not to disturb her lunch break now. How many faces does your mother have? Lu Chang'an was not moved or felt the understanding from his girlfriend's mother. He felt that Lu Yuwang would probably send a few messages during her lunch break to express her disapproval of her boyfriend's fight. Other views of events. If she doesn't pursue the matter, do you still have any objections? And Nuan said angrily. Of course Lu Chang'an had no objection. Lu Yuwang was considered an elder after all. Although Zhang Dao and Hans Hizi had no pressure to face her, after she left, the atmosphere became more casual, and Zhang Dao and Hans Hizi started chattering again. It's almost 2 o'clock. Zhang Dao held his phone and looked at the WeChat public account he followed. My mother said she didn't do well in the exam, so she sent me abroad. Hans Hizi was also a little nervous. As a family of intellectuals, of course she was prepared for studying abroad. In fact, many senior high school classes now have many plans before the college entrance examination. Where to go? She is joking. I heard her talk to my mother last time, saying that our three views are not yet stable at this period and are easily corroded. We might be led astray as soon as we go abroad. She also said that our colleagues went abroad. When I was playing, I even saw the daughter of a school professor smoking those things outside a nightclub. She might have become something bad. And Nuan sighed with regret. The girl she was talking about, I actually called her before. As for my sister, when I was a child, I always heard people say how good she was and I wanted to learn from her, but now she has become a bad thing in the mouth of the elders. Actually, she was unlucky enough to be met by an acquaintance. Many people are like this when they spend a few years abroad in order to integrate into the local circle. They do whatever they want, but when they return home, they look like humans and dogs. Hans Hizi stretched out her hand. With one finger, those who go out and uphold their original aspirations are probably 1 in 10. I am definitely that one. I don't dare, I feel like I can't help myself. Zhang Dao shook his head. The world is changing too fast. Lu Chang'an has not left this land for a long time. He is willing to go out for a walk again, but he has no impatient desire. In the final analysis, it is still the same sentence: human nature and human heart, depravity and desire, these things are not new. Just more, or less, restraint or indulgence. Where's your cell phone? And Nuan found Lu Chang'an sitting there, as if he was just here to check their scores with them, and she had no intention of checking at all. It's turned off, Lu Chang'an said nonchalantly, you check it first and then check it for me later. Anyway, you also remember my candidate information. Bah, I don't remember, and Nuan snorted after glancing at Zhang Dao and Hans Hizi. Although Nuan was nervous, she stopped arguing with Lu Chang'an, but she had to squeeze into the same sofa chair with Lu Chang'an, and he was not allowed to change places. Ah, it's time, Hans Hizi jumped up. Check it quickly. I don't dare to check anymore. What if I jump? No, I guess it's almost the same. The three girls were chattering. Lu Chang'an picked up the remote control and wanted to watch TV, but Nuan held down his hand. They were yelling. It was several minutes past 2 o'clock, and the investigation hadn't started yet. Lu Chang'an simply turned on his phone and set it to silent, when Gao Dui's call came in. The results are out. I checked mine, and also checked for you and Nuan. Gao Dui started in a very calm tone, and then became surprised. I am not the top scorer in this year's provincial college entrance examination. Lu Chang'an's surprise is not that surprising. After all, he is only fifth in the world. The world is so big that there are many capable people. Who is that? Lu Chang'an asked. Do you still remember when we went to take the exam in the second year of high school, Li Xiao, who had shaved his head and got 652 in the exam from his hometown? It was him. I really didn't expect it. Gao Dui sighed with admiration. The top scorer in the college entrance examination with bare points is a whole higher than me. 3 points is not a guy who really thinks he is the top scorer in the college entrance examination after scoring extra points for some ethnic group. That's great. You're not bad either. It's nothing. In the battle for the number 1 pick, 9 points of strength and 1 point of luck are necessary. Lu Chang'an was not a consolation. To be honest, Gao Dui didn't look like someone who needed comfort. Our total scores in mathematics and science are the same, Gao Dui said happily, as if he thought of something again. That's a coincidence. I guess my Chinese and English are much behind you. Lu Chang'an still has an estimate of his score. Since Gao Dui is only 3 points behind the number 1 scholar, and his math and comprehensive science are the same as him, then only Chinese and the problem with English. In Chinese, the teacher who corrects the test is probably not good enough to understand the ideas expressed in your essay. English is of little use. Once you learn it, you can find information easily and you can speak. Mathematics and comprehensive science are the subjects that reflect the true level. We are still on the same level. Gao Dui said disapprovingly. He had read Lu Chang'an's composition before and admired it very much, because Gao Dui himself could not write Lu Chang'an's nonsense. How was Nuan's exam? Lu Chang'an asked again for Nuan. Gao Dui, don't say anything, I want to check it myself. Nuan suddenly grabbed Lu Chang'an's phone and covered the receiver with a vigilant expression. Okay, you and Lu Chang'an's scores are about the same, but you still lost more points in math. You were just shy of 130. In Chinese and English. Nuan hung up the phone. This Gao Dui is real. Nuan leaned against Lu Chang'an and shook Lu Chang'an's shoulders vigorously. Help me check. After saying that, Nuan knelt on the sofa chair and lay on Lu Chang'an's back. She leaned over and watched nervously as Lu Chang'an entered her candidate information on the query interface. Lu Chang'an shook his head. It was really unreasonable. Is there any difference between this and her own investigation? Women are really stupid and incomprehensible creatures. Various requests. Do you prefer this kind of long chapter, or a chapter divided into 2? I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xia Hua. Chapter 190. The final query results showed that En Nuan and Lu Chang'an had similar scores. En Nuan scored higher in Chinese and English, but was not as good as Lu Chang'an in mathematics and science. The total score was a little lower than that of Lu Chang'an. It is expected that the admission line of Hunan University this year will be about 100 points higher than the key line. Lu Chang'an and En Nuan can definitely choose their own majors and apply for it. They are people who Gao Dui thinks can study together in the university. Of course, their scores are among the many candidates. Belongs to a superior level. Hans Hizi's score is slightly lower than En Nuan, but Hans Hizi has passed the independent enrollment of PBC Vocational College and received 20 preferential points. Her ideal is PBC College of Finance, but PBC College of Finance does not have an undergraduate enrollment plan. She just feels that it is convenient to take the postgraduate entrance examination in Jianshui Tower, but I have watched many TV dramas and idol dramas with Zonghai as the background during the recent summer vacation, and now I want to go to university in Zonghai. Zhang Dao's score was the lowest among the 4 people here, 30 points behind Hans Hizi. Although this was actually a high score, Zhang Dao thought that there should be no problem with Hunan University, so he was no longer depressed about his poor performance in certain subjects. Very good. En Nuan went to Lu Yuwang's bedroom to report the results. This was a very meaningful thing. After many parents heard about their children's college entrance examination results, they would have a feeling that their own merits and deeds were complete and they had finally grown up this little brat. Lu Chang'an, did you write your essay messily again? As an old classmate, Zhang Dao has heard Chinese teachers criticize Lu Chang'an for letting himself go in exam essays many times. No, I just think the essay question is a bit funny. Lu Chang'an smiled again. What's so funny? Hans Hizi looked at Lu Chang'an with envy. From now on, you can stay and fly with my Nuan. It's just like finding a boyfriend in college. The sky is high and the emperor is far away, Zhang Dao said suggestively. I have no such plan, Hans Hizi said reservedly. The most important thing for a girl to get into a good university is to make herself better. The greatest significance of getting into a good university is that the library has rich collections, many national key laboratories, and many cutting-edge and sophisticated scientific equipment and instruments. These are the most fun things, and they will make you feel great. In front of the natural sciences, everything must be knelt down and worshipped, Lu Chang'an said with some expectation. Today's Hunan University has certainly different scientific research equipment, whether it is soft power or hard power. Science cancer, Zhang Dao said disapprovingly, even though she was also a science student. Didn't you say that the end of science is theology? Hans Hizi smiled. Lu Chang'an smiled and said, the end of science is theology. I'm afraid it's just made up by some people to put money on their faces. If we don't discuss this issue, it will be discordant, Zhang Dao stretched and said. Of course Lu Chang'an does not take theology seriously. After living for so long, he always feels that he is the person closest to God. The gods who have lived for hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of years in myths and legends are not that great, especially in Journey to the West. Those gods who have a peach feast and plan to eat golden cicadas to extend their lives are even more ordinary. After living for so many years, if there is a god, you will always meet one or two, but it is a pity that there is no one. Is it because the gods are too arrogant and created him and then forgot about it? Lu Chang'an would like to find this creator when the scientific level is more advanced. En Nuan came out of the bedroom, her eyes slightly moist, probably because Lu Yuwang said something to her. Women are emotional creatures after all. At important moments in life, shedding a few tears will make them feel more satisfied. Lu Yuwang also came out. She was still wearing the cheongsam, and her hair was not messed up. It seemed that the so-called lunch break was just a talk, and she was also waiting for the results of the college entrance examination. I heard from Nuan that your grades are quite good. I'll ask you to go to the spa this afternoon as a reward. There is a newly opened spa club in Bailong Center. I went to experience it with Zizi's mother last time. It was quite good, Lu Yuwang said generously. As a woman, of course she knew that these girls, even if they were only 18 or 19 years old, had experienced a senior year in high school and were the most passionate about care and maintenance. Zhang Dao and Hans Hizi immediately hugged An Nuan and jumped up and down happily. Lu Chang'an was embarrassed. You go, I'll go with him. Well, let's go find Gao Dui. An Nuan thought for a while and said. Don't be a spoiler, go ahead. Of course Lu Chang'an would not drag An Nuan away at this time. He is not the kind of man with a glass heart who needs someone to protect him all the time and be careful about his emotions. An Nuan is very considerate with this kind of care. All right. Of course we go together. Lu Chang'an can play games in the lounge. Lu Yuwang looked like he was misunderstood. Let's have dinner together in the evening. Forget playing games, you go to the spa. My home is near Bailong Center. I'll go home and have dinner together in the evening. Lu Chang'an pointed at himself. I can't go shopping with you like this. You still know that you are embarrassed to look like this, An Nuan said angrily. Lu Chang'an nodded and said that he is a young man who cares about his image and is shy and aware of his shame. Hans Hizi ran to the opposite door and spoke to her mother, delaying it for a while. In fact, Professor Ling also checked Hans Hizi's results himself and was waiting for his daughter to share the joy. Originally, Professor Ling planned to go with him, but Hans Hizi's father came back from a business trip and had to leave someone at home. Professor Ling let him go after gossiping about Lu Chang'an for a while. A group of 5 people set out and took Lu Yuwang's car. An Nuan usually sat in the passenger seat, but when he thought about letting Lu Chang'an and 2 girls sit in the back, even though they were his best friends, they didn't have fireproof and anti-theft best friends. Meaning, but it still feels inappropriate after all, right? So An Nuan, Hans Hizi, and Zhang Dao sat in the back. Lu Chang'an consciously turned off his phone before sitting in the passenger seat, even though the possibility of Lu Yuwang sending messages while driving was 0. Lu Yuwang fastened her seat belt, but her cheongsam seemed a little tight when she was sitting. After Lu Chang'an glanced sideways, he looked ahead seriously. It was not that he would be tempted, the main thing was it's because An Nuan is secretly observing from behind. Your home is near Bailong Center. After driving across the river, Lu Yuwang saw the towering building of Bailong Center in the distance. Lu Yuwang seemed to recall one morning when she secretly ran to Bailong Center supermarket to make a wish. The card thing. Yes, Lu Chang'an replied casually. Lu Yuwang turned around and glanced at Lu Chang'an, slightly suspicious. The young man he saw that day seemed to have a similar height and back to Lu Chang'an. If he changed into a school uniform, he would definitely be able to compare. After all, things will not go away. Even though it had been too long, Lu Yuwang's memory had always been good. Not much will be updated today. I will set a goal for myself tomorrow and give it a try.